Before this video starts, I just want to say I have troubles with stuttering. So, yeah. This is a controversial take, so try not to take it too seriously, but also seriously enough to give me the benefit of the doubt. Also, if it sounds like my mic quality keeps changing, it's because I don't actually own a mic, and I've been spending several weeks using different angles from a mic and headset. So, yeah, I apologize for that. Anyways, be nice in the comment section. I 100% do not condone actual harassment. Anything and everything I say that is offensive is for the sake of humor, and I hope you enjoy the video. Thank you for watching in the first place. Let's see, how do I do this? How do I be honest and have something original? Gotcha! Danganronpa has always been a conceptually amazing experience, but it has its flaws in execution that piss me off, and I like to rant about them in a video. Okay, yep, that should keep firearms down until ad revenue mark. But since my channel is small, I can't really copy the big guys and just use buzzwords for the fandom to recognize and just get people to agree with me or shit on me. Instead, I'm gonna have to actually not talk about any of the mainline games and talk about Danganronpas. And well, yeah, H2O was a woke fuckfest. We all knew that. Plus, someone already talked about it, even though it's deleted. So, really, I have no other choice than to talk about another series, specifically SDRA2, because, I
kinda never went through a full playthrough of DRA.
Sorry, I really just couldn't take the low-quality sprites. Wait, wasn't there, like, an April Fool's update that made the sprites HD? Why didn't they keep that? That being said, not only am I not gonna cover DRA and only talk about SDRA2, I probably am gonna miss some shit from the first game, and so yeah, you guys can feel free to criticize me and like comment. Like I'm willing to start debates and other shit. I mean, I wouldn't make a video covering both DRA and DRA2 anyways, because this editing is tedious as fuck. Also, I will be shitting on the bad side of the SDRA2 community, which is more toxic than Danganronpa community in general, like canon-wise. Why? Because it's funny. Note that I only am doing the bad side of it. I know that there's some good people. And to those that do enjoy this game, I'm not saying that this game is bad. It's just that it fell off. And I haven't seen enough people say that it's mid or bad in comparison to this is the best Danganronpa game ever. This is so much better than the canon stuff. Like, I'll wake up, go on Instagram, see my SDRA2 For You page, see people put Kanade as their comfort character in their tier lists, and I'm like, are you well, my friend? Let's see, is there anything else I need to say? Oh yeah, spoilers, because lo and behold, people won't consume the product and will get immediately pissed for clicking on a video of that said product. Seriously, if you came here without consuming the media prior, you are, in fact, the dumb fuck at stake. It doesn't matter if I gave you a spoiler warning or not. That's just stupid on your behalf by Vault. Now, immediately jumping into the game, you get vibes from DR2, which is fair because DRA was sort of supposed to be like DR1 and takes place in the same area. And it's kind of the same here. It's not really Jabberwock, but it's still an island type thing. Or rather several islands? I don't know. I'm pretty okay with what's going. I like DR2, even though it had flaws of its own. It's still pretty good. Looking at the characters, they are, well, they're pretty fun to look at. Look how colorful they are. They just remind me of DR2's characters. Here was my first impressions on all the characters. Sora, female Chad, as well as an amnesiac. Our protagonist of the game. And boy am I glad for it. She is very based. Yuki, pretty much a stereotypical male high school pro tag, except he's not the pro tag. Literally Tadano, but nowhere near as Giga Chad. He's alright, I like him. Yoroko, tsundere bitch, and also a Karen. Yes, this is my head Karen. I mean, look at her. Also, you look like a prostitute. I'm indifferent of her. Iroha, the lolly of this game, because every Danganronpa game needs this type of character for representation for some reason. She seems innocent enough. Shinji, buff boy, because again, representation of body figures are a must apparently. He can't talk to woman. Gee, where have I seen this before? Setsuka.
Mommy, sorry. Mom, sorry. I'm not gonna say it. Mommy, and I'm not sorry.
Emma Mogorobi. God damn, you could still see her thighs in their half sprite. Did the guy have a sense of anatomy when drawing these guys? Oh, okay then, moving on. Kokoro, her brain power is OP and she's also adorable. Can I have one? I want to hug her and I want her to be hugged. Nikkei, this guy is based as fuck, but am I the only one who thinks that this guy just sounds straight up like Barry from Pokemon when I hear the dub?
With his pen always following the paper like a quick swipe of the winter wind. There isn't a scoop or a piece of news that can escape my grasp. The one always gathering the juiciest of intel for his loyal readers. Yep, that's me, Nikkei Yomiuri!
Right, Pikachu?
Man, why don't you two look where you're going? I'm gonna have to give you a fine. You've got 10 seconds to pay up.
Hajime, nothing else to see here other than a stereotypical bodybuilder. Not too fond of him. He is probably gonna die because he has the same name as a canon character. Yuri. Honestly, I think I prefer this guy more than Tenko. And no, it's not because he's a dude, it's because he's actually funny. Mikado. Can I make a description without saying funny wizard man go brr? No, that's an impossible challenge right there. This guy does literally nothing in the prologue other than deliver the plot twist that I believe should have been done around the end of the game for a more impactful plot twist. But hey, first time I'm going through a killing game with while knowing the mastermind. That's kind of original, huh? Teruya, a returning character from the first game. The one guy everyone believes he's gay just because he wears a rainbow around his pant leg. And I thought the LGBT community despised stereotypes. Shobai, the one person who canonically spouts out Zoomer memes from 2019. And also the guy who I thought was pronounced Sayobai. Besides that, he's the other half of my brain cells fighting whether Shobai or Sora is more based. And finally, my overall favorite and least favorite characters of this game, the twins. I'll let you decide which one I like more. The Oka Nakoji twins. The other lollies to appreciate if you don't like the Tumblr weeb. I mean tumbleweed. Seriously, someone who hates neck hair, how is that comfortable? Hibiki and Kanade Okanakoji are twins who you can only tell the difference by their chest size if you're legally blind without contacts. It's a classical twin sister dynamic of domination and submission where one rides on the other. Quite literally in chapter 2. Holy fuck, that sounds so wrong. Jesus Christ, I meant a fucking piggyback or some shit. But yeah, something is obviously happening with these two in chapter 3. It's written all over them. In fact, speaking of, this is a nice roster for a cast. The problem is, this is extremely predictable for a death order. The incel dies first, being killed by the athlete, who's also somewhat of an incel. Then two women need to die to even out gender odds, so take out the smart one and add the one who's most likely to deceive the others due to her talent. Then chapter 3, where the MILF, I mean the fan favorite character, dies, and then one of the twins, most likely the innocent one, turns out to be a whack job. The buff guy dies in chapter 4, and I believe it was either Yoriko or Nikkei or who dies or it's a suicide.
Then Teria dies because no one survives 2 killing games, and I forgot who the killer was. Let's just say I thought it was Mikado or Iroha.
So look through my predictions and then look at the actual death order. Okay, so I got one character wrong. I was surprised by the whole Sora Yuki thing, which I'll get to later, but can I just say, missed opportunity in character development for Hibiki to move on without her sister to Koban? I'd say Void Swap had the right idea in keeping Hibiki alive, except she's gay for both Setsuko and Iroha, because why? Wasn't Iroha's character supposed to be Sora's support character in that AU? You went, no, I'm not gonna go into that, I'm thinking too hard. But do you see my point? This seems way too close for comfort.
And I'm not saying it's bad to predict the death order, but this is less of predictions and more assumptions based on Danganronpa tropes, which at that point it's just boring.
And really, about half of the plot twists in this game come across either copying DR2 or tweaking some of the things the majority of people had a problem with DR2. But let's not speculate the quality of this game with only the theories I had. Let's actually dive into the deep realms of what inspired many unfinished Danganronpas on Instagram made by literally mentally disabled children playing Genshin Impact. And why they are all gay. Now, since the real funny begins in the negative category of this video, I have to talk about the good things first. That being Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and that's it. I really have nothing to shit on them because they're perfectly thought out and paced. Chapter 1 was a perfect setup to the major plot twists of the Killing Game.
Mikado states that he has no motives because the motives have been there from the start. And while personally I have my own griefs with the Voids, they were pretty interesting. It was just like a big game of Among Us, really.
Chapter 2 brought out some great development dynamics for several characters and one of the best trials in Danganronpa as a whole.
Making everyone believe they can convince Voids to betray? Genius.
And then, holy shit, the idea of using a freezer to cover up a time of death is brilliant. Not to mention they used events from the daily life that had nothing to do with the murder plan as misdirection. Genius, I tell you. And then the game falls off from here. Coming into Chapter 3, let me introduce you to figuring out how Jumpstart World Fun Zones work, and no plot reassurance other than a torn photo, only for it to be meaningless because Teria doesn't trust the class and won't give us answers.
Oh, hi, Mikado. What you got there? Oh, is that a monochrome motive pad? Oh, that's funny. Remember back in Chapter 1 where you said you didn't need any motives because you already had Void?
Yeah, I don't remember either. Oh no, my sexually attractive mother has died. Let's go to the trial. Hello and welcome to my literal annual... Why did I put aneurysmic? Hello and welcome to my literal aneurysmic brain fart featuring Yamai Ren. I swear to God, I need to stop making Komei references. This is becoming a problem. Who manages to make a trial last 4.5 hours. Damn, bitch, you really be good at edging. Teach me your ways, please. Okay, let's actually slow down with the incorrect summary jokes and let's get on with why this trial is actually bad, as opposed to popular belief. The main issue I have with this trial, and pretty much my issue with the rest of the game, is the absence of realism. What do I mean by that? Now, this topic is pretty controversial in the minds of media as a whole, let alone the Danganronpa fandom, but I'm going to be debunking a bit of the fiction affecting reality ideology. To be blunt, my take on the matter itself is I don't believe fiction 100% affects reality, but rather fiction is mostly inspired by reality and imagination. And the fact that games have some accurate realism at all to be relatable in some way is what makes a lot of people blind to believe the fiction is reality or it represents reality. Short answer, fiction only affects reality if you let it affect it. That's what I believe. You can believe what you want. That's what I believe.
And despite my opinion in that field of view,
video games can work without realism. I mean, look at Superliminal. The game where literally perspective is reality. Realism existing in that game would ruin the whole point of the game. So what's different here? The answer to that would be the genre. SDRA2 and really Danganronpa as a whole often get pushed aside as simply a visual novel. And while yes, the community isn't wrong for believing that, they often forget that it's also a mystery game. A murder mystery game, to be exact. Literally Clue or Among Us, the anime. I blame the fact that it's more of a movie than a game, since most people experience this through Johnny Youngster's translation videos. Myself included. Big respect, Johnny. Regardless, murder mystery games depend on realism to be good because it helps the player to think what actually happened. And even if the player gets a wrong idea, they can still learn something. I mean, I for one didn't know that identifying the time of death is more challenging in a hot or cold environment. Thanks, Chapter 2. But if there are unrealistic measures applied to a case, then it just ruins the whole experience because it makes the player act like they aren't playing a murder mystery game and rather just a plot twist fuckfest. Well, I have my biases on 823, mostly due to the length of it. Why is this 4 hours long? Surprisingly, this case doesn't have that much absent of realism. Keyword, that much. There's really like one point. Now I could be nitpicky and say that throwing the trash bag full of Mother Setsuka's limbs from a
Train to the chimney could be a little bat chest, as I wonder how much accuracy Kanade actually has. Or despite how perfect she is, some of the actions that she's been doing was very questionable. The example being dropping a bottle and then accidentally revealing it to the entire class. But you know what? Who cares? I sure don't. See, I want to get to the juicy stuff. And what more juicier than a pair of titties? That's right. We're going to be talking about the fake tits.
The real absence of realism in this trial is the part where Hibiki and Kanade had swapped places. For clarification, while Kanade went to set up the body in the haunted house, she made Hibiki wear Setsuka's hands in her shirt to pretend that she was Kanade by having bigger tits.
Damn, my earlier joke didn't age well, huh?
That's pretty gay, and kinda hot, and mega fucked. And would have been fucking genius if it wasn't so Hollywood hogwash. First of all, there was an issue regarding the smell of the corpse.
In the previous trial,
This was brought up in regards to Kokoro's finger. In this trial,
Nothing. Literally nothing.
compare the size of half an index finger and a pair of hands. Which would both bleed and smell more? Not to mention Setsuka probably has bigger hands in general than Kokoro. Also, I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure people can tell if your tits are just a couple of decapitated hands because human hands are in fact not rounded, and even if they were wrapped inside plastic bags and pinned to Hibiki's shirt, they still wouldn't be that way. Like, that's literally a common joke in adult cartoons, or just cartoons in general, because that's how fake tits work. That's what happens when you stuff your tits. It doesn't look like actual tits. Because it's for humor. Absence of realism, everybody.
I mean, Kanade's got some
Huge boobs. I mean, some serious honkers. A real set of badonkers.
Okay, so, editor's note, this is me from the future. So, apparently, I forgot to take into account that Hibiki would have put the hands inside her bra to pad out and round out the tits, which yeah, it would improve, but it still wouldn't
totally work.
Plus, Hibiki has a smaller bra size than Kanade, so what's to say that the bra size would be able to fit around Setsuka's hands? I mean, say what you want about the clip falling off the bag, but really, in Gravity, if it's too small to wrap around, then
the bag would just like sag through. There's like no support on like the bottom of the bag because the bra's too small. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, yeah. But yeah, I saw that on Reddit somewhere. I figured I'd make that clear. Yeah, go back to the video.
Second issue, Hibiki's voice. Hibiki would have to sound exactly like Kanade, which, alright, fair. I could see an ultimate vocalist knowing how to achieve some voice acting. They're identical twins, they probably sound similar. Spoilers, they don't. And again, the idea of voice manipulation wasn't brought up in the trial at all, despite it literally happening last trial. The difference there was because there was an actual rebuttal to it. But the main issue with this is regarding Hibiki's puppeteering, which is bullshit by itself. I will get to that later. Let me explain the plot hole. Hibiki in her puppet mode is completely unresponsive unless Kanade is there giving her instructions. And I can understand if Kanade told her to go join the others to watch the parade,
or to pretend she's Kanade.
However, Hibiki would also need to say things in response to certain dialogues. And this is Danganronpa, so there's gonna be a lot of dialogue. This is no different than telling a computer to do something.
They're not smart enough to figure out exactly what you need unless you explain it to them in exact detail for every command. Basically meaning Kanade could not be separated from Hibiki in her puppet state.
So unless Kanade tapped a speaker to Hibiki and talked for her, which is a huge stretch because it would not only would it require Hibiki to lip sync, but you guessed it, it wasn't even brought up in the trial. You had 4 hours of this and you didn't talk about 3 important things. Literal fucking ape shit. Okay, now that we got that done, and we're still on the topic of Hibiki, can we please talk about post-trial? First of all, why is this a hour and a half long? Like, I feel like it should be like a half hour max. Maybe 45 minutes.
Kanada's motive was shit. I bet you already thought I was going to say that. Literally the only thing good about it was the fact that she didn't give in to the actual motive that Mikado provided. That was good.
But the puppeteering is where I draw the line, and same thing with the whole yandere thing. In actuality, I shouldn't need to explain why this plot twist is stupid, but I'm going to anyways. Obviously, humans don't actually go through this much despair to the point they can recreate literally fucking yandere simulator. Not to mention, a 4-year-old child isn't going to kill a fucking dog to get attention from her sister in the result of being harassed. Jesus Christ, why did you write this character like this?
But Mr. Funnyman, Linji confirmed that even if Hibiki never bullied Kanade, or even if they weren't sisters, she still would have resulted in the same yandere as she is today.
Nigga, shut the hell up and eat a cinnamon roll.
That doesn't help your claim. In fact, it makes it even worse. The fact a 4-year-old child would start having the intelligence or expressing her psychotic nature. At 4 years old, I still didn't understand what the hell the fucking cartoon mans were saying. How the fuck did she figure out how to put a puppy in a garbage dispenser? Like, I could see it take effect in, say, maybe her teens at earliest, her tweens, so like 10 years old at the earliest, but not age 4.
In my honest, humble opinion, it should have been Kanade who died solely. The fact that they both died because, oh, they stabbed Setsuka at the same time by milliseconds, yeah, that's believable. Fucking whack bullshit. This is another spot where there's the absence of realism. You're gonna hear that a lot. I fail to see two people being in sync with each other by milliseconds difference just because they're identical twins. Let alone Hibiki in a vegetable state shouldn't even have counted as being conscious at that point. Literal DR2 chapter 2 trial moment. That should have been what happened when you later half of SDRA2. And I know exactly what all of the Kanade stands are gonna be like.
Danganronpa has always made unfair decisions, like when Makoto and Kaede were set up for execution for nothing, or when Monokuma would have been responsible for having all the contestants die in starvation, despite not directly killing the students.
And yes, I'm aware, that's not the issue. I'm not saying that the bad guys should correlate with the good guys' rules. The issue is that it disrupts the Danganronpa formula in why executions are put out to begin with. Danganronpa executions are meant to be despairing and have always had symbolism to the point in a direction that this was their worst possible way for this character to go out. Some are easy to detect, others are a little more hard to decipher because it's rather poetic, but it's always been there, except now. Kanade never got that despair. She got exactly what she wanted. She got to witness her sister die, as well as everyone her sister loved, and she was able to have Hibiki fully puppeteered before she snapped back to reality, knowing full well Kanade is the monster she is. Not to mention, she spent her final moments being down bad for a beheaded Hibiki. This is no longer hot, this is just scary. And I know exactly what rebuttal you're going to mention, because everyone who I've spoken to this argument has justified it with this exact comeback. What about Kaito? Kaito also got what he wanted. So I'm going to drop anyone who believes that into the special ed class to teach them how to actually read a character. Kaito's execution, well, yes, he successfully fulfilled his promise that he wasn't going to die the way Monokuma wanted him to, as well as finally reaching his goal, his all-time dream goal of reaching space before he died. Though, honestly, I'm willing to bet that space was fake and made up by Monokuma, because fuck V3, it doesn't matter. Kaito's true despair, however, was he had to break promises. He was the one that brought the training trio together and hoped to help them out. Right after he forgave Shuichi, he killed Kokichi. And right before his execution, Maki had confessed to him. So yeah, that would have hit him hard. That would have been despairing for an execution. Kanade's execution has no symbolism. Well, actually, it does, but in the wrong sense. This execution, symbolically, is not a Okonokoji twin execution. It's a Hibiki Okonokoji execution. Hibiki felt despair because she had to die over something she didn't do, as well as knowing her entire family and friends are either dead or Kanade. This execution is literally the embodiment of, if I'm going down, you're coming down with me. And thus, this execution does not work because it would cause a yin-yang effect of despairing the good and accomplishing the evil. So what's the proposition? Having Kanade die solely. That way both sisters would still feel despair. Hibiki would have to live on her life knowing that she has no one left to love her except for those who stand by her side in the killing game. And Kanade would also have despair because her all-out puppeteering plan would have been ruined, as well as her plan for 2 killers. Plus, Hibiki would have found out and hated her until the end of time. The entire point of Kanade's character was that she was just a literal attention whore gone wrong. A perfectionist's true fear is being wrong. Long story short, Kanade Okonokoji is not a well-written character and was only given the fucked backstory because
It's chapter 3. Time to make the killer as fucked as can be.
I guess the one thing I can say that's good about this execution is that I guess it looks cool. I like the art done to it. Alright, I've been ranting in chapter 3 for far too long than I like to, so let's move on to chapter 4. Hello, and welcome to pacing. You don't see anything right now because that's the joke. Holy shit, chapter 4's daily life is so long, and the pacing is literally non-existent. Chapter 4 went, what the fuck is a pacing? The first half of daily life is a boring lore segment where they try too hard to cram every lore puzzle piece together. Okay, to be fair, that's been literally any Danganronpa chapter 4, except V3, because fuck V3, it doesn't matter. Super Danganronpa Another 2, however, goes beyond the extremes. So the idea is my pair of Nike shoes reveals that he's a Void member, and then he reveals a whole bunch of other shit, and by that I mean the literal ending of Danganronpa 2. Yeah, don't play this game before Danganronpa 2. So yeah, they're in yet another simulation. Okay, surely this is handled a lot better than Danganronpa 2. This is probably the redemption story of simulation, right? Right?
Nikkei set up the simulation, but because he's a dumbass who can't code, the simulation is fucking bugged to the point of that there's new land created, the weather is fucked, and the rule book isn't working properly. Alrighty then! The second half of the day of life, the pacing is instead all over the place. You got everyone trying to solve their reset codes, to them being stuck in the tower, to Terry social isolating them in the tower, to having fucking snow in the tower, to having the tower be locked by a glitch. Yeah, if you haven't figured it out by now, I have a huge gripe over the fucking tower. Did I mention you could do a Super Mario 64 or speedrun glitch by falling from the top floor through the ground? Yeah, I'll get to that later. The entire setup to this death was also extremely stupid because they were paranoid that they weren't going to be able to break the door down and leave the tower because it's against the rules to break school property. Even though not only was it previously mentioned in Chapter 2 that breaking the rules for good reasons may be excused, insert every time someone has hit each other with the excuse, I had an intent to kill him. Meaning if they were dying from hypothermia and starvation and needed to survive, they could be allowed to break down the door. But Nikkei also previously stated that the Tower of Babylon B wasn't supposed to be part of the simulation. So would that really be part of the quote-unquote school property, or is it just Monocro can't tell the difference because he's, I quote by Shobai, retarded? Relax, I'm on the spectrum, I can say that. Look, I understand why they added this. The entire idea was to have snow to activate Shinji's PTSD for when he received his accident. And honestly, that's smart. I give full props to Nikkei. We actually have a twist villain that thinks things through. Except when it's been proven twice that the PTSD doesn't flat out make Shinji vulnerable. He still gets adrenaline in his system for emergency situations due to fireman's instinct. Though the actual fun part about this chapter is that you get to play as shonen bisexual hash brown motorhome. And then there's the trial. Now this trial is also pretty fine, as I'm still unsure whether this trial is better or worse than the last one. However, there's a key element in the class trial that is revealed only until later in the trial and not during the investigation. The most we get is being fucking suspensefully suspicious, sus imposter, sussy amogus, and then it's completely dropped during the investigation because homosexuality.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am gay, I like long, big cocks. I am a super gay, I like long, big cocks. Now, once again, I would like to make this very clear. I am gay, I like long, big cocks. I am a super gay, I like long, big cocks. Thank you for your attention, and I hope for your support.
This is a perfect example as to why the absence of realism doesn't work for a game like Danganronpa. There it is again, absence of fucking realism. If you leave shit out, it's sort of hard to fully interact with the trial because then you can't express the entire experience of a murder mystery game. So what does the game do? Well, first, they revealed the Tumblr Weeb is a Void member, which I feel like was unneeded at this point of the game, and then have Mikado threaten her that she's slacking off because she's probably unironically mental, and then to try to save herself, she pushes Shora off at the top floor, atop the stairs railing, so Sora falls through the floor below, literally remaking Meta Runner. Out of all the sources of media, I never imagined I'd be making a fucking Meta Runner reference. It was probably better off referencing the CW Flash facing through a wall. I don't think I need to explain how this is absenting realism because it's literally phasing through the floor. But by doing this, the whole interaction of the game has totally died because By this point, literally anything can happen, and if that thing is a plot hole or defies reality, then it will either use the simulation's existence as a crutch, or they'll play the glitch in the system card to just get away with any bullshit problem. Rest of the trial was pretty good, including post-trial. I like how Nikkei was revealed as a twist villain and then got karma for it until he got a bullshit execution. Also, as of right now, there have been 3 missed opportunities. Hibiki surviving, Nikkei surviving, and Void being an acronym calling Virtuing One's Inner Divinity. On to Chapter 5. There's really nothing much for me to say that I haven't said already. The day life starts off with Yuriko and Sora having an argument over how she fucked up big time in the last trial, while Yuki commits full fucking emo while the rest was an unneeded amount of lore. And I guess Lanuge realized that only the second game was getting translated while the main audience was people from the West. So they decided to add the lore of both Utsuro and Akane Taira, which, by the way, Sora bringing up Akane Taira to Terrio felt extremely random. And let's not forget, it's some gay, homosexual gay representation, because lo and behold, representation, it hasn't been hinted throughout this entire game. But wait, there's more. There's poly instead. And for those who actually read Korean, the new stuff that they talk about is the voids, the fact that they're several years older than what they actually are, which I don't know how the hell they came to that conclusion, and divine luck. Mark my words, I will get to the divine luck later. I have a lot to say about that. But notice how almost the entirety of this chapter is spent in this one single room, despite how huge Mitch City is. Side note, I think it's based of Lanuge to name the final island after his most controversial character from DRA. Like, I understand it's chapter 5 and things are supposed to be serious and on point, but the amount of time spent with these 3 sitting around talking when it could have been more focused on events that focused on that said lore. Like, I don't know, maybe they find Yuki looking through a filing cabinet somewhere that has info on Utsuro with sublines of Akane Taira. Maybe some more info about the voids there. Who knows? And maybe they start putting the pieces together that all the files have to do with divine luck, because that's a key word in there. And then they go look for Terrio to go see if he knows anything, because the files were made records of Kisaragi Foundation. I don't know. Also, call it a nitpick, but am I the only one who thinks that the whole them waiting outside of the recording studio because they didn't want to get wet is stupid? Like, I understand why this was done, but I feel like it could have been done so much better. Like, this just felt stupid. And then the investigation also felt kind of dumb. Since Shobai is gone, they need another smart person. So who do we make smart? This random lesbian or someone with actual luck that could possibly learn some shit from Trivia Crack or Academic Bowl or Scholastic Bowl or... It's fucking Yuriko. I'm not even mad about the representation at this point. I'm mad that she thought that a reliable source was, quote, some crazy drunk doctor that wandered into our joint once. Please tell me you understand what's wrong here. Please tell me I don't need to explain this. The chances of Yuriko knowing this information is quite literally Yuki levels of luck. Really, I think it's Yuki should have somehow known this information. Like, it's a lot more understandable for Yuki to know something this random, because he's the ultimate lucky student. He's supposed to have random luck. I don't know, man. Nick picks again. Let's just finally get to the trial. A25's trial is all the reasons I and others hate 1-3. It's boring. The culprit is so obvious, and yet the game insists that you spend over an hour just to find it, and the trial itself was confusing as fuck. I literally finished tuning into a Weebly news stream, and even after all this time, I still get a massive headache from trying to figure out what the hell is happening.
And so did the people I was watching with. All I remember was they used a film and duct tape to lock a door that was hijacked to set off fire through yellow phosphorus to set off sprinklers that would wash down a painting of teriyaki, and then something about a painting on a bridge to make it look like it was non-existent, and then they gave poisonous food to Teria. Which, if Teria was willingly eating the food, then he would have been the culprit. Not Iroha, not Mikado, nothing. What? Huh? And the result doesn't matter anyways, because Mikado can just hack in when the rules work and don't work, or when Monochrome is working or not, because lo and behold, the killing game genre is quote-unquote unfair. Okay, so after re-listening to this portion while finalizing my editing, I realize I'm being a little unclear in my statement on this. It's not the issue that Terraria is the actual black and like they had and they were like misleading the trial. That's not the issue I was trying to make. I understand that Teria was like supposed to be like a suicide, and it was brought up. The problem that I have is that this game has way too many plot twists. Like it's plot twist after plot twist after plot twist. It does. They don't even feel like plot twists anymore. It just feels like random shit coming out of their asses. It's like, fuck it, put it in the air. Let's make this most unrealistic as possible. And like I've explained way too many times like how like the absence of realism just doesn't work in a murder mystery genre. And like if you're fine with it, it's good on you. But like, I gotta ask, why? What's appealing about this? Does shock value just keep you invested because it gives you serotonin or like or dopamine? I don't know what. I don't know. I'm going back to editing. I don't want to fuck with this right now.
But Mr. Funny Man, this is just a part where the mastermind shows his true colors. And besides, Danganronpa has never been totally fair with the rules.
This isn't just Mikado pulling the strings of the killing game. This is him just playing literal God. We all hate Mary Sue's, right? We all hate Kanade, right? No. Okay. Well, here we have the villain who has no consequences for his actions, the motherfucking power to have all powers bullshit, and also the ability to straight up debug a Neo World program. But don't worry, I'll get to him later. He's for Chapter 6. But right now, let's actually not go to Chapter 6, and actually take a step back to all the way to Chapter 0. The chapter that's usually always irrelevant throughout the first playthrough, and is only understood till later. Now, I know you're expecting me to shit on a certain character that's been unanimously hated within the community, and you would be wrong. Yes, I said it. I don't hate Kokoro Kurokawa. That's not to say I don't like her either, as she's extremely different from the Kokoro I've known and loved. But holy shit, this fandom has turned her as more of a monster than fucking Kanade. But no, people really do be shitting on Kokoro and portraying her as this fucking monster to experiment on her daughter with full awareness just to torture her. I swear to God, this fandom has found a rare substance to snort on like no other. Kokoro had a life goal of discovering primitive emotions ever since childhood. Her hypothesis would result in locking a newborn baby in an empty room until adulthood. While it's true that this is unethical, it's by no means torture. The whole point of experimenting is to discover that you're not supposed to take feelings into the matter of researching science. Let me put it this way. See, as a child, you're less likely to understand reasoning and more likely to fall under indoctrination of adults. If adult all tells you not to bite down on your hand, you'd immediately obey without questioning. But as we mature, we adapt more to reason. Now, if we are told to bite our hand, we get the idea, why not, in our brains, and we don't understand that nerves react in a painful way in response to physical trauma. Oh, fuck.
So in that regard, we do the exact opposite and bite down on the hand. And with that, you know your answer. Sure, there was a sacrifice and now your hand hurts, but you learned something. That's science. It's the same with Kokoro. The only difference is instead of her asking if I did X, what would happen, she's asking, what would I need to commit in order to accomplish this X? Experimenting on a child, while cruel, is a reasonable act for a scientist in order to discover a big question in humanity. What is the primitive emotion? And it's not like Kokoro thought of putting the child in an empty room until adulthood was in her priority for an experiment. Her free time also states that she hopes that she can find a way to achieve her dream without the need of sacrificing a human life. She believes that she lacks empathy, but really, her understanding how such an act would be crucial to sacrifice a human life, especially one of her own, shows that the empathy does in fact exist. It's just that Kokoro doesn't realize it or know how to use it in her favor. It's also worth noting that she never actually dropped that low. Even as an adult, she still kept some of that empathy from her childhood. My source? Well, simply, she didn't pull a Kanade and fight her husband when she took Mikako away from her. Nor did she make any attempt to bring her back to keep experimenting. Now, one could argue that Mikako was now exposed to the environment, and primitive emotions were now impossible to figure out. And you know what? Fair enough. You got me. I'll give you that one. Except, she doesn't make an attempt to replicate the process. My source goes to how Kokoro is amazed that the data for the experiment still exists. Well, she pretty much forgot it existed, indicating that the experiment took place several years ago, and the subject hasn't been touched in some time. I feel like if Kokoro was really this monster, she probably would have persuaded other men like Mikado or continue searching for a sperm donor. But again, it seems as though she dropped the subject entirely ever since her family left. Is it regrets? Perhaps. Is it because of other things? Maybe. I don't know. I just don't know why people are just so quick to assume that Kokoro is a monster for this. Like, I feel like you guys are too intact on your feelings, but you know what? Whatever. I'm moving on. Fun fact, Kokoro's last resort plan actually has been done IRL. The results? Yeah, let's just say it wasn't pretty. The lack of sunlight caused the person to lack vitamin D, and it gave him a bunch of headaches. The lack of interacting with other human life caused it to not be able to obtain emotions, and the ability to speak, or the ability to learn how to do, like, basic human things, like walking, without someone trying to imitate, or think on their own without someone teaching them. I'm pretty sure they let him out at around age 50, and was classified as a literal man-child, and had to join a preschool class after that. I may have that wrong. My source of that was my English teacher, and I haven't been to school in over 2 years now. So if anyone knows, feel free to let me know in the comments. I'd be gratefully interested to check that out. Oh, and just so we're clear, I do not believe Kokoro was entirely in the right. Despite this godforsaken fandom blowing everything out of proportion, like always, it doesn't mean what she did isn't fucked up. The point I'm trying to make is this is the type of shit I'm looking for when it comes to twisted Danganronpa characters. Someone with a realistic motive and an understandable intention, whether you agree with the methods or not. Not some horny, problematic serial killer that's only enjoyed through shock value. You can have a character be fucked and still have it feel realistic, and Chapter 0 Kokoro is a perfect example how to do this. Kanade isn't. Oh yeah, and before I forget, we get to see real-life Mikado. God, what a fucking twink. I could fucking... I could eat him like a breadstick with cheese. I could fucking bend him like he was a stick of string cheese. Chapter 6. Yeah, no, I'm done. I'm not doing this shit. No. What?
Do I have to? But it's so long. It's fucking 13 hours long. Fine.
Yeah, fine, I'll do it. That was my reminder that I need to actually try to get some income from this. So, if you actually enjoy... So, here's my... If you're enjoying me suffering right now, just like and subscribe. Just do it, please. I don't want to bullshit with the algorithm right now. And lo and behold, we get 5 hours more of investigation. Like we didn't already have that much. I'll be real, I did not give a single fuck about this segment. There are only 2 things that were actually decent. One of them being the segments on the cameras, especially Setsuka flirting with Nikkei. That was hilarious. And then the other thing was Teruya dying, which was kind of sad. But everything else felt pointless, and I feel like we've already been through this stuff at this point. Like, didn't we already know about divine luck? I guess that's another thing I could say is, can Yoroko please just back up? This is just annoying at this point. I can investigate by myself. I don't need the psychiatrist backing me up for everything that happens. Let's see, what else do I have besides shitting on Yoroko? Oh yeah! Shobai! Yes, Shobai got flawed tremendously. So they made it so that the AI version of Mikado hired Shobai to kill the real Mikado. First of all, how do you even do that? Second of all, why would Shobai trust an AI? That's like admitting to I mean, you're not wrong. My mom's behind me making comments saying that it's stupid, and I would agree. But no, the real thing I was gonna say was that's like trusting the sugar moms and sex bots on Snapchat. You wouldn't do that because that's a scam. And yet Shobai says something like people are the most untrustworthy human beings, but AI is just so trustworthy. No, you got that in reverse, bitch. Alright, that's enough for the investigation. I should stop stalling and get to the trial because I am 50 minutes into this. So we get to the trial and it's so long. It's 6 hours. So much so that I can't even download to collect footage. Every time I go through this trial, I always get an injury. Therefore, I have no idea what happens in here. So instead of just re-watching the trial 6 times before I actually get it in my head, I'm just going to read off a summary I found on Amino. Let's begin. So it turns out that the Mikado we saw in Chapter 0 was the original one, and the one in the simulation was an AI he created. Original Mikado wanted to make an AI of Utsuro, the mastermind of the first Another game, but he created an AI of himself as a prototype. This horribly backfired on him as the AI didn't care about Utsuro, so it betrayed him. So Obai, who was a double agent for the Void of the Kisaragi Foundation, killed original Mikado. So from this point on, Mikado refers to the AI, aka one so we know from the beginning. See, that's funny because he still brought Utsuro back to life successfully. I am going to assume that Lelouch just forgot about this part and move on. Nikkei was also telling the truth for once about Boy not being an evil organization before Mikado joined. The original name was Children of Utsuro, which sounds more evil, but it wasn't. I am not joking, that is actually in the script. Anyways, Monokro's real name is Yuri, and it was actually made by the Kagarin Corp, run by Yuri Kagarin. To be a source of hope, every character, apart from Sora, Yuki, Shobai, Mikado, Teriyaki, and the Voids, are all symbols of hope for the real world, which I feel like is a bizarre bunch of them, considering there's only like, what, 6? They're all connected to the cast from Another One. Shinji saved Kakana from a fire. Yoriko's upperclassman was Kazuna's mother. And Kanade, get this, out of all the 60 crimes that she committed, Tsurugi Kinjo was there. And get this, not one of those 60 times that Kanade has killed someone. Kenjo never suspected the twins. Yes, the guy who's supposed to be all anti-evil, like the ultimate cop, failed to do its job and then they just completely removed the idea off the equation.
Wow, that's actually the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Moving on. Everyone apart from the Voids are all adults to choose. Shinji has a wife and kids, so Lanucci practically said, fuck every Void x non-Void shit, which I respect. Yuri, Kokoro, Setsuka, the twins, Shinji, and Yoroko all got adult designs, and Shobai is the same, but he just wears a suit instead. Sora is also an AI made to help with the killing game who has Akane Tyra's data. I like how it says this part was really confusing, which is very much correct. Akane's body was found, but she was brain dead, while the real Yuki's body is gone somehow, but his brain is still active. Also, the fact that Sora is an AI, which is not even the case, because Mikado states that she's less of an AI and just pure data, which is just empty, goes with my point in saying that Sora should not have any contents right now in or out of the simulation. Oh, and fun fact, Sora does not mean empty. It actually means sky when you look it up. I'm just gonna assume Lin Yush forgot about that plot hole and just move on. Tyrion knew Mikado was gonna kill and let him because he found out he was the only thing that was preventing the survivors from going to the real world because of a firewall. Basically, he sacrificed for the survivors and is permanently dead. Everyone who died in the simulation is permanently dead too. We then get a scene of Rei bitch-slapping Tsurugi because he doesn't care. Rei is alive because she used an emergency escape code before her death. Which makes no sense because there was ashes left behind. I guess Lanucci just forgot. Mikado forces Sora, Yoroko, Aroha, Shobai, Yuki, Rei, Tsurugi, and Utsuro to do a final trial, and Utsuro gets revived. But once he is, the first thing Mikado does is strangle him almost to death because this is the AI, remember? Another quote from here. Sora goes into despair, but accepts that she's an AI. Again, not an AI, just an algorithm. This has been explained. And saves Utsuro. Mikado tries to use Utsuro's powers for himself by transferring himself into Akane's body. Utsuro gave her his fortune before he died in another one, but gets shot and is bleeding to death on the ground. Everyone has to leave the simulation now, but Sora, Utsuro, and Mikado stay as it crumbles to pieces. Those three are now dead and active, while Yuki's fate remains unknown. Once the killing game is finally over, Shobai and Roha are instantly arrested by the Kisaragi Foundation for being affiliated with Void. The two break out and are found by a hooded figure who looks like Akane Sora. It's implied that it's Yuki in Akane's body. The three get away, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So right off the bat, once again, this trial is confusing. I swear I can never actually sanely go through this trial without receiving a migraine of some sort. I would try to go into detail about the trial, but unfortunately it would just be me repeatedly go over the bullshit abuse of divine luck and the simulation and all the other shit. Although there is one thing that I think is appropriate to bring up and wasn't even brought up in this script here. It's the utopias, specifically Yuki's utopia. The utopias are supposed to be a paradise for each of the contestants while also removing all memories from the killing school trip, meaning no interaction with any other contestants that they didn't know in the real world to prevent triggers to snap back into the reality they once were in. They did this perfectly with Sora, Iroha, and Yoroko's utopias, but for Yuki, they made his fantasy him eternally climbing up a mountain with Shinji. Yeah, because Yuki totally knew what Shinji before everything happened. Makes matters worse when the adult Shinji comes into play. Like I can't even insult this. I'm just straight up confused as to how the fuck he got here.
You're supposed to be dead!
I guess my final grief about the trial is what got them to won the killing game. I was priorly shitting on Mikado for being overpowered, but why didn't it enter his mind the idea that Utsuro didn't have the divine luck anymore, and that it was given to Akane Taira instead? I mean, once again, I haven't played DRA, and I don't exactly know how Utsuro died. All I know is that he and Akane were sacrificed, and the Hope's Peak Academy building collapsed onto them or something like that. But wouldn't it have been common sense if Utsuro was constantly trying to kill himself, but couldn't due to because of divine luck, then isn't the reason that he died because he didn't have divine luck anymore? Like, how did I figure that out before Mikado? If you want to make a character overpowered like Mikado or Kanade, make it so that it's, like, believable. Like, it's not even them being perfect. It's them being perfect when the plot demands it. Because once again, they gotta fill up the shock value. Let me go back to Kanade real quick. With how smart Kanade supposedly is, and how long she supposedly evaded from the law, she's made some weird decisions throughout the trial. Framing Iroha, drugging her coffee, yet realizing that Iroha doesn't even like coffee, well, estimated having breakfast with her for around a month, and also not hearing a bottle drop on a hard floor surface. There's a difference between being smart or that you become cocky, and just being perfect because the plot demands it. And also, I have to ask, why did they need to have the Sora Yuki embodiment Akane thing in Save Shobai and Roha? Like, it makes it as though that Lanuge is setting them up for something extra. When the Omega mode, which probably isn't coming out like ever, is supposed to be sort of based on like a prologue of the game, featuring Nikkei and some void thing, I think. I don't know. Well, boys and girls, we made it. I honestly didn't have a lot to share on Chapter 6 other than the fact it was boring and the other stuff. Give me a minute. I need a second. My throat's raspy. How long have we been doing this? Jesus, over an hour. Alright, conclusion time. Now, despite my anger and many insults to this game, SDRA2 is not the worst Danganronpa to ever be created. In comparison to H2O, this is miles better. However, the idea that this is the first good Danganronpa game that has surpassed 2 chapters is pure cap. Also, the idea that it's better because one guy made it is also pure cap. However, you can't have too many writers either, because then there's just going to be too many ideas, and it's just going to be a mess. Now, I think the only thing left to talk about is the title of the video. Super Danganronpa Another 2 is disappointing, and nobody realizes it. I can already hear you guys typing on your phones. Let me explain. Obviously, I understand that my opinion is not fact. You can enjoy this game, you can dislike this video for not agreeing with me, you can have your own opinion. However, throughout my time within this fandom, I have been on the lookout for people to relate and discuss on this topic, but to my surprise, my opinion has been in the very vast minority. Throughout this past half a year or so, I was watching Weeby News' weekly stream of the game. Now, I have no hatred against Weeby News, but there were several moments during the Chapter 3 trial and everything after that I wanted to kill myself at how much fangirling was going on, whether it be from the chat or from Weeby herself. It felt like they were just seeing what they wanted to see and wanted to just push all the bad aside. As Weeby called it, Delulu Land. It somehow got on my nerves that Mish was being hated more than Kanade, despite Kanade killing over 60 people over a possible sexual attraction to her sister, rather than Mitch, who at the very least asked the Kanade to fuck, and at worst groped her. Yes, I actually did research on that scene, and I can proudly say that people are overreacting to that scene. It's not that bad, guys. I actually posted drinking game rules in one of the comments of her videos. Stuff like every time a Mitch meme happened, stuff that every time they simp for Kanade, every time that they say slay or ship Sora x Yoroko. Everyone was saying that, do you want us to die? There's too many of those O's. And I'm like,
That's the fucking point!
Stop posting posting about a
Mitch memes! But despite chapters 3 to 6 being less than enjoyable, I still had a fun time playing this game, and obviously the first time running in a Danganronpa game is always an experience in of itself that no other run of the game can come close to. The gameplay, while not nearly as stacked as Canon Rampa's, is still fun to play even in the trials when you know what you're doing. And the characters, oh my god, the characters. The character cast of Super Danganronpa Another 2 had gone through some of the best fleshed out development that I've ever seen in a Danganronpa game. Normally I gripe whenever someone tells me a character is redeemed during a free time event and you should go play them. And while I do find most of the free time event ends enjoyable, the main issue is most of them are filler. What's experienced during the free time events either doesn't affect the main story or they just have a slice of life bit of action. Main reason why Danganronpa S was a disappointment.
Besides the microtransactions.
With Another 2, I can't complain about that. Most, if not all, of the free time events are touched up in the story, and those that aren't reflecting the story aren't truly filler, and they go deep about their past, like Shinji's PTSD from Snow getting explained that it reminds him of his accident from when he got paralyzed. Now, obviously, the cast isn't perfect. I just did not like Iroha after Chapter 5 and Yuriko like pretty much any time. I tried liking her, but I don't know. She just felt like she was just here for over-representation. I didn't like Hajime's motive into getting into Void or his free time events, as I'm not the biggest fan of the health nerds. I've already explained enough of Kanade and Mikado to get my opinion across from there. And really, I don't want to make a whole ass tier list going in depth through all the characters, as this video is long enough as is. So with that, I'm gonna leave this video off with a question. What did you think about Super Danganronpa Another 2? What are some things you enjoy about it? What are some things you'd like to add to my critiques? Were you able to endure the bullshit in the games, whether that being repetitive dialogue, characters, being retarded for basic understandings for the excuse of dragging out the game, or just straight up plot holes? Let me know. The comment section is waiting. While you're down there, Air, why don't you leave a like and subscribe? Like, why not? It literally costs nothing. But thank you so much if you managed to make it to the end of this video. It warms my heart to actually try and get back into content creation again, and motivates me to make more stuff like this in the future. I hope you enjoy my rants. I'll see you guys later. In the meantime, stay funny, lads. I'm Isaac Uedomen, and this has been a blast.